And this is Crystal Jordan, rolling out.
Hi, Crystal. How you
Hey,
doing?
Crystal, can you hear us?
I can. I can. Can you hear me?
Indeed, we can. We're ready for you to take it away.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Great to be on.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Here we are.
Right. Well, first of all, I want to say bravo. I love the film. I had the chance to watch it with my 23-year-old son, which gave me a totally different perspective, and we were able to have a great conversation about the film. So I hope that will spur conversations from other people that see it, because a man's perspective and a woman's perspective were so different.
Mhm.
I want to start by saying it really, I guess, for me as a woman watching it, I hadn't realized until I realized this, but you get a chance to really understand the complexity of what you do to a man when you take away his ability to protect,
Mhm.
like what that does to his self-worth. And there's such a difference when you see what happens when Kajani's mother, when she's faced with the reality, and his father, that the moment when Link says, I can't do anything about my son. I'm nothing.
Mhm.
That was huge to me. Can you speak a little bit about what that does to a man and then to a community as a whole, when fathers, husband, brothers know they cannot protect, their loved ones?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that is more debasing than that. Um, but if you know, and I'm sure you do, the history of our existence in this country, that goes all the way back to the plantation.
Mhm.
You know, there's a reason why Black women are the backbone of our community, and it ain't because it started happening when police started killing people in the last 50 years.
Mhm.
uh, Oftentimes on the plantation we couldn't eat unless our powerful women went to the big house and asked for food.
Mhm.
And if we did break bad to try to protect our families, most oftentimes it was the woman who went to the overseer or someone to calm them down, to
Mhm.
make sure that we could live another day.
Mhm.
So this type of stripping of humanity and stripping of personhood, stripping of fatherhood is not new. It's not a thing that happened with George Floyd. It's something that we have been fighting against, and it has been affecting us for years. We talk a lot about mental illness in the Black community, specifically with Black men, but we don't talk about the psychic damage that
Mhm.
happens to men that they have to face every day they wake up, whether it be dealing with incarceration and coming out as a returning citizen and not being able to provide for your family, or having to go out in the first place because you're not afforded the same opportunities and jobs. And this is something from Reconstruction to the New Deal, you know what I mean, to the 70s to the 80s, and the war on drugs and all the things that we've had to endure that just strip us of our manhood and our humanity. So a film like this, I wanted to articulate that in a moving picture, in a contemporary story, because sometimes we'll see a movie of a long time ago,
Mhm.
and it gets dismissed quickly. Oh man, it was bad back then. Oh
Mhm.
no, Michael Brown's father is mourning him even as we talk.
Right.
I have
Right.
no idea where he is. I don't know the brother personally, but I tell you what, wherever he is right now, if he's in a sandwich shop, if he's getting his hair cut, somewhere in the back of his mind, he's thinking about the fact that someone took his son and
Mhm.
then told him that it was okay.
Right.
And so, articulating the empowerment, his what did he do when I don't want to tell the story, but he called, he talked to his wife. He took that call and says, I'm tired. I don't know what to do, but we can't keep doing the same thing. And
Right.
that is my message of the film. Unless we change something, we'll keep getting the same thing, and that is killed.
I thought it was interesting that the Link and his community were veterans,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's another issue that we don't talk about is everything. Amari's hardest character. So I don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. So you have men that were fighting and saw unspeakable tragedies, fighting for our country, that come back and then are discarded. What was the importance of having that be a part of the storyline as well?
I mean, it's telling the story. If you look carefully, you see, 5 generations, of Black men in the story, because for me it symbolizes that we're just handing it down. it's the same bag. It's just passed down, like, Michael Warren, fantastic actor, represents the uncle, and you see him in with pride, his military jacket. So many people in my family have served and would do it again. But like you said, only to come home and to be not only discarded, but sometimes lynched, straight off the boat. We have given so much to this country, and we continue to give so much to this country. And it seems so odd that all we ask is to live. We're not really asking for anything but to be left alone.
Right.
To raise our children and to build our households. So, this film is not the answer. It's not. But it is definitely pushing us deeper into a real conversation that I believe has not happened. We talk about the conversation, but the real conversation won't happen until, one, we learn. We try to look at these type of scenarios where we look at the problem from different angles, or two, it happens in real life. And I'm hoping that it doesn't. You know what I mean? But you know the game. You take the wrong person's kid, who knows what'll happen. I know how much I love my children.
Right.
So
maybe it's not. I mean, I there was that moment of like, if this has to happen in order for people to wake up, maybe that, the movie is brilliant, but I think it's so many pieces of conversation. So Link creates a parody of the court system by having inmates serve as a jury for Officer Randall. And again, it just reminds you of how often we are not tried amongst a jury of our peers. What were you trying to show with that? Because you have these conversations and the police officers immediately realize these aren't my peers. And it's like, welcome.
Yeah, and then the entitlement and privilege went out of the window. Like we always talking about equity and equality, but we don't see it through an honest lens. There's no equity. What we're fighting for, it's like, well, go to court. No, I mean, it's your peers,
right?
You mean really? And in this film in particular, a lot of those men that you saw are returning citizens in real life. These men have been debased and disregarded and stripped in ways literally and figuratively. So for me, it was, how do I give everyone a voice?
Right.
How do I give this young Latino brother, Hispanic brother, a voice and allow them to deal with their stuff in their own language? You know what I mean? It's like at some point, I truly believe, healing will come from honest confrontation, being honest about our past and what led us here, and I've learned a lot in my journey about that very thing, so hopefully people see it and it sparks conversation like it did with your 23-year-old son. Hopefully cops will see it and your 23-year-old son is safer because of it.
Right. One of the things that the film did is it did show both sides. You showed objectively. You have a scene where you're actually able to see this officer interact with his family, and that was a very heartfelt moment when he's talking to his wife as well. Did you think it was important to really showcase both sides of it so that we do come to some type of understanding?
Well, it's not a conversation if you don't. It's I think what we're fighting is systemic. I don't think it's as individualistic as we often try to make it. I do believe, the police that are involved in these shootings, that their justice should be served. But I don't think it just ends there. We keep going around the merry-go-round where someone kills someone and then we're like, fire him. And then he gets fired. And we're like, yes. And then a week later, someone else gets shot. Why? Because it's systemic. And I think it's important to recognize you could, I'm not going to talk about the ending, but a lot of endings could happen that could make us feel good for a moment, but we'd still have to deal with the system.
Right.
So allowing everyone to recognize, yeah, there are all these point of views, but as long as you're in a system that teaches you what it teaches you and allows what it allows and doesn't hold you accountable, then the thing that will come, the result, the other side of the equal sign will be, black bodies in the street,
right,
bloody or with knees on their neck. It's just what it is.
There is a moment where you also address intraracial issues between the Black officer
Mhm.
and the guy and the father and then his community, and then also in the Latino community we see a really intense moment between a Latino officer and an inmate, and that doesn't always get addressed, how we feel about each other and how sometimes these cops are from our own communities and have just as much bias, if not more,
Mhm.
than than a white cop. Can you talk a little bit about why that was important, and not just like I said from the African American perspective, but also from Latino perspective?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. There's a line in the film where one of the inmates says, "Programming is programming." You
Mhm.
know, if you're programmed to do that, it doesn't matter where you're from. That is the thing you're going to do. Some of the most severe beatings that I saw on YouTube in my research, came from people that weren't Caucasian or European, even though they did their share. And when you look at the film, you know, how often do you see, and I'm trying to mince my words, but how often do you see when one of our babies is dead and gone, they prop a black person up to tell us to calm down?
Mhm.
Or the black chief is, we're gonna, you know what I mean? Or the black whoever, and then we're like, okay, all right, well, maybe because they have that person, something's gonna be different. And it's not. The programming is the program, the system is the system. And I think until we indict the system, things won't change. We can send a lot of people to jail. We go, he killed someone, send him to jail. He killed him, indict him, send him to jail. But until we say, you know what, there's something infrastructurally wrong
Right.
in the design of this system, which I believe is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Until that changes, we won't. I don't think we're going to see anything differently. And I don't think we can keep passing the buck. If the next 50 years, like the last 50 years, we're in trouble. We're going to be fighting at that point for our very existence, because we're becoming numb and more and more numb to these situations. People don't look at the videos. People don't even talk about it as much anymore.
Well, that leads me to my next question. I think this year things were a little different because we were all sitting down and
Right?
we had to look at it. We were forced to look at the video, and it's hard. It was very difficult to watch George Floyd and all the many. And then also, I know this movie obviously is coming out, and then we have this uprising at the Capitol, violence from a different way. Do
Yeah.
you How timely is this film in relation to all of that? This 2020 and the 2021.
You know, the answer is tragic, I think, because I think if the film was made 10 years ago, it'd be timely. If it was made 20 years ago, it'd be timely. And unfortunately, as it stands, if it was made 10 years from now, uh, it would be timely, unless we do something differently.
Mhm, mhm.
This film doesn't show us anything we don't already know in our hearts and souls. It's just, and again, I want to applaud all of the brothers and sisters that are doing the work on the ground every day. I just make movies. I just say, look at this, and I hope it impacts you. But on a day-to-day basis, even you as a journalist, there are people that are in the trenches every day trying to figure out how to solve this thing. And until we're honest about it, until we're willing to confront this issue and confront people that are on the wrong side of this issue, then we may not change things. I've talked to so many friends that are like, man, I'll think my friends think one way, and then I'll go on Facebook and realize a lot of these people I thought were with me aren't really with me.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that's problematic. If we really want to see the change we say we want to see, I don't have the answers. I'm no savior. This film is no savior. I'm no different than you in the sense that I'm trying to disseminate information to the people so they change. You do that every day. There's no difference in the importance of our jobs. I'm just the guy over there that's doing it with a camera. And you're the sister over there that's doing it with a pen in the
Mhm.
press. We all have to do our part. And even if it's a small dent in the door, we have to have hope and be optimistic. And at some point, that door is going to come down.
Right. Do you think that this is your do you feel like this is your purpose? Because you've this movie and The Birth of a Nation are very, very strong films that speak to us. It kind of reminds me of a mashup between like John Q, a lot
Mhm.
of connections between that and then Birth of a Nation, because you see that refusal to just lie down. And I love the fact that you were a part of showing this story. Like this is not, there has to be something in us that's not always going to be a victim.
Right.
And so it makes me wonder is, do you feel like this is your purpose to kind of be a voice to show different perspectives and to stimulate these conversations to help move us forward, or at least expose us to, what's going on.
I hope so. I'm going to continue to try to be. I'm going to continue to do everything I can with our art to support the work you all are doing every day. Like I said, I'm not special. I'm just a guy that feels compelled by God to just use whatever gifts I have to do my part in the conversation. And again, I have children. I have a nephew that's now USC, thank God, and I have daughters, 5 girls. I just don't want to hand them over this trick bag and say good luck. I want to be able to say, look, take it from here. I did all I could, but take it from here and have something tangible, because art is that intersection, right? When art meets life, you have people willing to see and hopefully be changed. If I stood on a soapbox and read this script as is, I don't know if people would care.
Right.
If I ranted all the lines on social media, I don't think it would have the impact that I wanted. But especially now everyone's at home, you just say, this is from a filmmaker, Black man, father, this is the America that I see, and this is my hope for us as we move forward. And you take that and put it next to the work that you're doing, next to the work that Black Lives Matter is doing, next to the work that some of these heroic people are doing. I think that the algorithm will change over time.
I'm taking a little bit of a different turn. How was the experience being involved with Spike Lee? You had to look up to him when you were younger. That had to be a special, something special with this project, being able to work with him. Can you tell me a little bit about what your I guess history, if you have a history with him, and what it was like working on this film with him?
Spike is hands down one of my heroes. I did Red Hook Summer with him, but obviously I've been looking up to him for a very long time. He gave me confidence in his stories that I could direct, in listening to his interviews. He's very much a doer. When you read about how he approached She's Gotta Have It or School Days or Do the Right Thing, he never waited for anyone to give him, to validate him in the story that he thought needed to be told. Right. He also honored who are now our ancestors with, my brother Ozzy and my matriarch Ruby. He just represents, in my opinion, the best part of what we're capable of when it comes to not only being an artist, but being an activist and using your platform for good. So, and to be honest, we don't have enough father, son, or uncle, nephew, or mentor-mentee relationships in this town. And I think him saying, I showed him the film, the first person I showed the film to was Spike. In that moment, he says, I'm with you. No matter where it takes us, let's go. And I want to do that for others, even with young Shane, is when I saw his work, I said, you need to be in this film. We have to rely, really cleave to those bonds, because it's hard being in this industry. People ask me all the time, my little cousins or whatever, like, Uncle Nate or Cousin Nate, are you rich? I was like, I make positive Black movies. so no. But Paul Robeson said that the artist must decide to fight for freedom or bondage. I've made my choice, and I've made my choice. So I could make that choice because of people like Spike. Malcolm X changed my life. The book changed my life, then the movie changed my life. It did something even different than the book did. So I'm so grateful to Spike as a brother and as a father figure to me, that he stands by me, that he supports my art, that he drops everything to watch my art, that he listens to my sometimes terrible ideas, and gives me confidence in the ones that I think need to be told. So I'm forever indebted to him, and I hope that I can be that to someone else as I get older and more wise in this art of filmmaking.
Last question. What are your plans moving forward? Are we going to see you take any roles that are a little lighter than this, where we get a chance, because you're a great actor all around? Are we going to get a chance to see that, or are you locked into being a conduit of change? And not that that's a bad thing, but I'm just wondering, are we going to get to see the romantic, the playful side, or are we locked in?
I've done some of that, and I think there's space for it all. I try to, with every project, I try to, pray about everything that I do before I do it, really pray about it, talk to my family, because not every film keeps you safe. You make a film about taking police hostage, you got to worry about what's it going to be like. I don't have armed guards out front of my house. It's a sacrifice. But I think that you do what you're called to do, and sometimes you're called to do things that are more fun. You know, I'm available. I'm working for all the directors that have projects. I'm out here. I just want to make sure that when I'm on my deathbed, you know, and I'm hopefully surrounded by people who love me of different generations, they know that when it got hard, I did the hard thing and I kept going. I didn't try to pacify us uh, or ignore our reality as a people. So I hope that answers your question. Yes, I want to do other things, but I really take them as on a case by case basis.
Any last minute advice for that young man that's out there with like you were years ago when Spike was doing She's Gotta Have It? Any advice for those that are looking and hopeful and want to figure out how to get their art to the next level?
Yes, go to www.nateparkerfoundation.org, sign up for our summer program, come work directly with me and help me and my staff give you the tools you need to tell your story. Whoever you are, young man, young woman, young whatever, we're here to help. We think there's power in storytelling, and we think there's power in mentorship. I do not think that there's a lack of capacity in our community. I just think far more often than not, it's just not being cultivated. So if you're out there, tell your story. If you need help, look us up.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
January 15th, this Friday.
Thank you again on a great piece. Much
Thank
success.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's cut there.
Thank
With
you.
That